Sonic Adventure 2 is one of the worst Sonic games I have ever played. It misses the mark across basically every regard, and I don't regard it as being a very good Sonic game, let alone the peak of what Sonic has to offer. The fact that people hold this game in very high regard, some people even viewing it as being the best game in the whole franchise, to me is mind-boggling. But why do I think that? Well, that's what we're going to be going into in today's video. As a brief overview, I really hate the structure of this game. The game is split into two stories. You have the Heroes side, where you play as Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles respectively, and the Dark story, where you play as Shadow, Dr. Eggman, and Rouge the Bat. To the surprise of absolutely no one, I think that Sonic and Shadow's gameplay is by far the best out of the three gameplay styles in this game. However, what shoots Sonic Adventure 2 in the foot is the fact that they take up such a small chunk of the overall runtime. Not to mention that unlike in Sonic Adventure 1, you can't just play Sonic's levels in isolation and enjoy his campaign from start to finish. No, it doesn't matter if you don't like the mech shooting or the treasure hunting stages. You are forced to play those levels if you want to experience everything that Sonic and Shadow have to offer. These are the 16 stages in the Hero campaign, blue for Sonic, yellow for Tails, and red for Knuckles respectively. When we apply the colours, you see that Sonic himself takes up a very small chunk of the overall runtime, to such an extent that you can play up to 5 Tails and Knuckles levels between even seeing the blue blur again. As for the Dark story, it's even worse. Not only does Shadow have less levels than Sonic, however you have to play at least 2 or 3 stages with Eggman and Rouge before you can play a stage as Shadow. The other main problem with the characters in this game is that they don't feel unique and distinctive from one another, and when they are made unique, it's usually for the wrong reasons. Sonic Adventure 1 managed to make all 6 of its characters feel unique. They weren't all made equal, like Sonic was easily the best character in the game, but the point is that they definitely stood out and they were unique. Fuck, even Sonic 06 managed at making all 9 of its playable characters feel different and unique from one another. They failed at a lot of other things, but they nailed the idea of making each playable character feel different from one another. Sonic Adventure 2's mentality to making the characters feel unique is simply making an inferior clone. How do we make Shadow feel unique from Sonic? Well, you give him less stages and you take away the bounce bracelet and the magic hands. How do you make Tails feel unique from Eggman? Well, you don't. You take away his fantastic gameplay style from Adventure 1, even though you can still play as him in the Chao Garden, which is fucking stupid. His fantastic gameplay style is still in the game, but it's locked to the Chao Garden because of fucking course it is. And from there, you're just an Eggman clone, but you don't have the health upgrade and you have worse stages. As for Rouge, she is unique from Knuckles in the sense that she doesn't have the upgrade that allows you to breathe underwater, and she also has easily some of the worst stages in the game. Sonic Adventure 2 clearly did the bare fucking minimum with its characters. You couldn't have given Shadow like a ranged attack to make him unique from Sonic. You couldn't have given Rouge an increased jump height or the ability to fly, like she is a fucking bat after all. No, you're just gonna make clones of the other characters, but make them worse in every regard. Okay then. Going into the gameplay styles specifically, we're gonna start with Sonic and Shadow, aka the speed stages. As I mentioned before, these are easily my favourite parts of the game, and to some extent, they can be quite a lot of fun. However, I do have a few issues. The first one being that they nerfed the spin dash, as you are forced to charge it up in Adventure 2, whereas in Adventure 1 you could spam the shit out of it for short, sharp bursts of speed. This is a nitpick, however, I do prefer how the spin dash works in Adventure 1. A greater issue, however, is that if you're playing on the Xbox controller, which, let's be honest, you're going to be in 2025, you have 3 different abilities toggled to the same button. The somersault, lightspeed dash, and the spin dash are all mapped to the B button, meaning that you can fuck yourself over, and you can also achieve fuck all by mashing the button in select moments of the stages. This was an issue that many people had in Unleashed, where the homing attack and the air boost were mapped to the same button. However, at the very least in that game, you had the homing attack reticle, which meant that you were never lied to. If you fuck up a homing attack and you air boost off the stage, that is entirely your fault, and not the game's. As for Adventure 2, on the other hand, I can't possibly imagine how the game expects me to have a good degree of control over my character when you map so many essential abilities to one button. At the very least, the speed characters have good physics at least. They interact with terrain exactly how you would expect them to. They have the homing attack, which you can spam just like Adventure 1, and they also run very fast, which is all a thumbs up from me. The problems therefore arise when we're talking about the stages themselves, as these stages were not designed equally. The biggest issue with these stages is the stage-specific gimmicks, which really do hinder the overall fast-paced platforming that Sonic games should have. Like in Pyramid Cave, where you get to a locked door, you have to go on a different path, find a key, bring it back, and then use it to open the door, and then continue on your merry way. Why the fuck is this the case? Crazy Gadget has the anti-gravity mechanic and is easily the most annoying stage in Sonic's campaign as a result, and one of the most annoying levels in the game, period. The stage isn't very well designed, it fucks with your depth perception, it's just not very fun all round. Skyrail with Shadow is not only a very short level, however you spend basically the entire stage doing nothing but grind rails. With the same thing also applying to Final Chase and Final Rush respectively. These stages are so fucking similar to one another. Not only do you spend a lot of time just riding grind rails, however besides that you spend a bit of time with anti-gravity mechanics and doing the most basic of platforming. And unfortunately this only leaves us with 5 stages that I legitimately enjoy. Those being City Escape, Metal Harbor, Green Forest, White Jungle, and of course Radical Highway. Or in other words, not even 1/6 of the stages in this game. Moving on to the mech shooting stages for Tails, I think that these are absolutely awful. The mech moves slowly, has abysmal jump height, the stages are very condensed and claustrophobic. All you're doing is just holding down the shoot button, trying to rack up as much score as possible, and whilst this is certainly a unique idea for a gameplay style, I definitely think that Tails has the worst mech shooting of any mech shooting gameplay in the entire series, as I prefer Gamma's gameplay from Adventure 1 over Tails' gameplay in this game. There's also the fact that narratively speaking, it makes zero sense for Tails to be waddling around in this slow-ass mech. Take Mission Street for example, where you have to escape the enemy pursuit, yet for some reason Tails is waddling around in a mech rather than flying away or turning the mech back into a damn plane. Route 101, you're chasing after the president's limousine, but why the fuck is Tails not just flying over the damn city? Surely it would be more efficient to do that. Or fuck, we could even leave it up to Sonic, because, you know, he's known for his speed, I'm fairly certain. And then you have Hidden Base, where you have to find the entrance to Eggman's base, yet the entire stage is filled with quicksand. I'm fairly certain it would make more sense for Tails to just fly over it, or turn the mech back into a plane and use it for reconnaissance. Simply put, mech shooting does not suit Tails at all. I think he was completely butchered, and I much prefer how he played in Adventure 1. As for Dr. Eggman, whilst I think that mech shooting makes a degree of sense for him due to the whole creating machines thing, I am a little disappointed that the Walker is the only machine you can use for Eggman. I think it's a shame that Shadow the Hedgehog has more usable vehicles in the Sonic series than Dr. fucking Eggman does. Personal gripes aside, however, I do think that Eggman is much better than Tails, as his stages are far more interesting and some of them are very open and enjoyable. My favourite of the bunch being Cosmic Wall, because not only does the mech have incredible jump height, however when you use the thruster you actually go up, allowing you to reach higher platforms that you couldn't reach before. Why the fuck couldn't every stage be like this? Make no mistake, I still think that the core gameplay of mech shooting isn't really my thing, and I don't really want it in a Sonic game. However, I think that Eggman's stages were definitely the peak of the mech shooting formula. It's just a shame that every stage wasn't built to that level of quality. Then we have the treasure hunting stages, and this is where everything just shits the bed. Getting the few positives out of the way, I enjoy how Knuckles and Rouge control. They move really fast, control pretty well, they have good handling, and generally speaking, I didn't have any issues with the controls. However, that is where the positives end. Not only are there way too fucking many of these stages, seriously, why the fuck does Rouge have more stages than Shadow the Hedgehog? However, these stages at their core just aren't fun to play. The treasure hunting stages are generally very large and very open stages, and you spend a lot of the time just gliding around them aimlessly until the radar starts beeping. And once that happens, you can basically use the radar to help you home in on a Master Emerald piece. The issue, however, is that the radar was nerfed from Adventure 1 as it only alerts you to one piece at a time, meaning that you could potentially be right next to a Master Emerald piece. However, if it's not the one that the game wants you to find at that particular moment, the radar won't alert you to it until you found the Master Emerald piece that the game currently wants you to find, and that is fucking stupid no matter which way you cut it. I also think that the hint system was better in Adventure 1, since when you activated Tikal, she would point you in the direction of a Master Emerald piece. However, in Adventure 2, the stage already expects you to be familiar with the layout of the level in order to find the Master Emerald piece, which obviously beginners aren't gonna know shit about. That and the fact that there's a degree of randomization to the Master Emerald pieces, and the fact that there's not that much else to do in these stages, and I genuinely don't understand how anyone can have fun with these levels. Security Hall being one of the worst examples, since you only have a 5-minute time limit to find these damn pieces. And then you have stages like Mad Space, where the stage is so fucking massive that finding the Master Emerald pieces is just a chore. And as a result of this, there is a very small portion of Sonic Adventure 2 that I legitimately like, and even the parts that I like still have issues that aren't completely perfect, and as a result, there's a very small percentage of this game that I enjoy overall. I think that Sonic Adventure 2 had some of the best multiplayer in the series, especially with all of the unlockable characters, such as Amy and Metal Sonic. However, when you break it down, you're not actually playing very interesting levels in multiplayer. The only one out of the 3 that I think is legitimately enjoyable is the races, where you play as Sonic and Shadow and you have to race your friends to get to the goal ring first. Besides that, you're just mashing the shooting button with Tails and Eggman, and you're hunting for Master Emerald pieces with Knuckles and Rouge, which, as I've already gone over, are gameplay styles that I generally don't like. As for the boss fights, there's only a couple I legitimately enjoy. I think that the Bio-Lizard was really good and makes up for the fact that Shadow didn't have a playable segment in the final stage of the game, that being Canon's Core. And I also really enjoyed the Egg Golem with Sonic, as it made for a very fun platforming-based boss fight. However, besides that, most of the boss fights in this game weren't very good. You spend most of the time fighting the camera when you fight Knuckles or Rouge. Tails and Eggman just outlast a war of attrition, and when fighting Sonic and Shadow, you're basically just mashing the homing attack until your opponent gives up. Whilst I think that the rival battles were a definite upgrade over the ones in Adventure 1, I think that that game overall had better quality boss fights. Hell, not even the final hazard is a pretty fun fight. Live and Learn blasting in the background 100% makes the fight feel epic. However, you're not actually doing anything that epic with Sonic and Shadow, and controlling them in this fight feels very clunky. And that just leaves the Chao Garden, and whilst it's definitely a breath of fresh air to play the main stages, collect Chaos Drives, and then use those drives to make your Chao better so they can compete in races and things, unfortunately it is just a distraction, as this isn't the gameplay style that I look for in a Sonic game, and let's be honest, it's no Pokemon. And that's ultimately Sonic Adventure 2's biggest problem, the fact that it has a few legitimately great gameplay moments buried underneath mountains of shit. And even then, the gameplay styles that I legitimately enjoy aren't perfect either, meaning that when you break it down, I only enjoy like a fifth of this game's content at most. Hell, not even the story is that great, but trust me, we're gonna save that for another time. And as a result of me not enjoying a lot of this game's content, I unfortunately don't even have it in my top 10 favorite Sonic games, as I think that games like Adventure 1, Unleash, Generations, and even Frontiers are better games than this. It was truly disheartening, because for over 10 years I thought that this was one of my least favorite Sonic games, and I was looking forward to replaying it, but unfortunately when I did, I found that the game was actually worse than I remember it, rather than it being better. At its best, Sonic Adventure 2 is simply acceptable, maybe even good. However, at its worst, it's got some of the most frustrating, boring, and hateful gameplay styles I've ever experienced in a Sonic game, and as a result of this, I probably aren't gonna replay it very much in the foreseeable future. But that's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know down below, and consider subscribing to the YouTube channel and joining the Discord server where we talk about your favorite games. I thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.